It gets worse with the liberal women voters out there on TikTok again. They never cease to disappoint us on TikTok, do they? TikTok, in the words of one of my most loyal viewers, Keystone Liberty 1776, TikTok is becoming, I can't remember exactly how he said it, but he's right. It's becoming a platform that should be shopped around by psychiatrists. Essentially, you should go to school, learn psychology, psychiatry, etc., then go on TikTok to find your clients because there's no shortage of them. First, we saw the despicable celebrations of Charlie Kirk's death on TikTok, of course. There was hundreds of thousands of videos of them. And I got to say this, 70 to 80% of those people were liberal white women, at least from my subjective experience. And you can comment down below if you had a different experience those first few days after Charlie Kirk's death. Maybe you were seeing a lot of guys celebrating too. I certainly saw guys. I saw all these teachers, professors that were men celebrating his death too. But I got to say this. 70 to 80% of them were women. It's just what I noticed. And now we're getting a round two of that from these liberal women, again, mostly liberal white women, after President Donald Trump and RFK Jr. announced that the consumption of Tylenol while pregnant might lead to an increased chance of your child being born with autism and or ADHD. How are liberal white women responding to this news, mind you? This is how they're doing it.
About to take Tylenol for my headache while pregnant because I don't take my medical advice from a man who doesn't have a degree in science, healthcare, or medicine, and who had a parasitic brain infection and was addicted to heroin for 14 years. Yeah, I'll trust my doctors who have their degree.
Now I have a couple of things that I've thought about while watching some of these. I could play a lot more. I have like several more videos of pregnant liberal white women taking Tylenol and taking more of it on purpose just because Trump and RFK Jr. said it's bad and might not be great to do while you're pregnant and might increase the chances of your child being born with autism. I could share a lot more. If more and more of them keep coming out, I'll eventually make a compilation video of it. Why not? But my first thought process, of course, is what kind of desperate slob is knocking up these kind of women? Listen, please, men, this is the ultimate advice to you right now. If you ever stumble across a woman who looks like that, right? Avoid her. What are you doing? Like, you never allow yourself to be that desperate. On top of it, the fact that they're about to give birth to children also is deeply concerning because, well, I don't want liberal women giving birth to children. I don't want more liberals being raised in this world. But then on top of that, particularly in regards to what this broad right here was saying, how she's going to trust her doctors over RFK Jr., who, mind you, is the Secretary of Health and Human Services. I don't know what goes through these moronic liberals' minds when they see RFK Jr. announcing stuff like this. This is research being done. They seem to think RFK Jr. just goes and sits in some office somewhere and thinks about crazy situations like this and makes them up and writes it down and then decrees it. It's not how it works. Like, there's actual science being executed here in the Health and Human Services Department, especially now that RFK Jr. is heading it up. So you want to trust your doctors, lady, about taking Tylenol while you're pregnant? I first and foremost just quickly want to read this statement that Tylenol made after Trump and RFK Jr. announced there might be some risks to pregnant women taking it while pregnant. Tylenol states, "We stand with science and we stand with you. For generations, families have trusted Tylenol when it matters most. Why? Because Tylenol is one of the most studied medications in history. The facts remain unchanged. Over a decade of rigorous research endorsed by leading medical professionals confirm there is no credible evidence linking acetaminophen to autism. Acetaminophen is used worldwide as a first line of defense for pain relief and fever reduction at the recommendation of independent public health and leading medical professionals and in accordance with the product label. High fevers and pain are widely recognized as potential risks to a pregnancy if left untreated, especially in the first trimester. Remember to talk to your doctor. We prioritize science as the core of how we provide care, and that will never change." But you know what's funny about all of that is this. It's not just RFK Jr., the man who that TikTok white liberal woman so elegantly said struggled with a brain worm. He's not the one actually conducting these studies, believe it or not. He's the secretary of the Health and Human Services Department. They actually have teams that go out and study these things. This is not just RFK Jr. sitting in an office somewhere doing this, writing papers. And so it turns out that redhead lady on TikTok, liberal white woman who says, I'll listen to my doctors. Well, here's what your doctors actually have to say, combined with the scientific community. This is an article from harvard.edu. Using acetaminophen during pregnancy may increase children's autism and ADHD risk. This article was written August 20th, 2025. When children are exposed to acetaminophen, also known by the brand name Tylenol or paracetamol, maybe I said that right, maybe I didn't, during pregnancy, they may be more likely to develop neurodevelopmental disorders, including autism and ADHD, according to a new study. And it doesn't end there. In case you're not satisfied with Harvard, here's a Johns Hopkins University article. Taking Tylenol during pregnancy associated with elevated risks for autism, ADHD. A Johns Hopkins study analyzing umbilical cord blood samples found that newborns with the highest exposure to acetaminophen were about 3 times more likely to be diagnosed with ADHD or autism spectrum disorder in childhood. Now, you'll of course have to pardon me for only reading the headlines here on this video. It's gone on long enough here. But the main point is, liberal women have been so severely affected by Trump derangement syndrome that they are now willing to risk their infant's health, their unborn infant's health, by recklessly popping Tylenol while pregnant. And some of them are only taking 1 or 2 with a glass of water on TikTok. I've seen other ones that are dumping bottles. I don't know if they're faking it. I don't know what the deal is, but that's how much they hate Trump. They're risking the health of their unborn babies just to get one off on Trump. And they look stupid doing it because they want to talk about how they don't trust RFK Jr. because where's his qualifications? Well, do you not consider Johns Hopkins University to be qualified, or Harvard? That's my question at this point. On top of that, I want to point something else out. This is something that's been on my mind, and I made this statement on Threads. You can follow me on there, American_advocates on Threads. Very liberal platform, but I have a lot of fun flaming people on there. The liberals, of course, trolling them. And you troll them easily, by the way, by speaking the truth. I pointed this out over this Tylenol thing. You tie this in with everything that we know women to be nowadays, especially liberal women, right? We were always told growing up, oh, they're the nurturing gender, women. They are very good nurturers. I don't see that. I don't see that being the case. I mean, we're talking about the gender that aborts their unborn baby, right? Abortions have killed more children than any school shooting could ever hope to. That's just a fact. So women abort their children nowadays. They encourage now, these liberal women are encouraging, in some cases, their children to develop gender dysphoria and encouraging them to go on puberty blockers at the age of 12, 13? Disrupt their hormones when it's the most crucial point of their life to have them. And then when they get old enough, they go, yeah, just get the gender confirming surgery, which means mutilate your genitalia. Now they're doing this Tylenol crap. You know, they celebrate Charlie Kirk's death. They celebrate it. His family now, with his 1-year-old and 3-year-old child, fatherless. I told you 70 to 80% of the people celebrating it I saw were women. So they celebrate that. Now they pop Tylenol and put their unborn child at risk. But they're the nurturing gender anymore? I don't think so. And so who knows what the future will hold. Tylenol is clearly very pissed about it, as they should be. Big Pharma is livid. That we saw massive amounts of pushback when RFK Jr. was having his hearings about being appointed to the Secretary of Health and Human Services, and for good reason. This is why. This is a man who questions science, as you should. Tylenol wants to say that they've been one of the most studied medications in history. The facts remain unchanged over a decade of rigorous research, they say. Well, that's great. Now prepare yourself for a new decade of rigorous research. If Tylenol is safe, it'll hold up. That's how science works. It's just lost on liberals. And I can't say this enough because they have no God. Liberals don't have a religion. And so they place all of their faith in secular principles and secular ideologies and science. Science is their God, one of their gods at least. In doing so, the way that they do, where they deify science, weirdly enough, it defeats the actual purpose of science because you don't question God. And so you don't question science now because you worship science. That's their problem. That's why we're seeing this craze. That's why we're literally seeing women popping Tylenol pills while pregnant on purpose. That's going to come back to bite some of them too. It'll be interesting to see 9 months from now, some of the stories, I bet, a year from now, 2 years from now, it'll be interesting. At least one or two of them will fess up to it, I bet. And you can also bet when that happens, I'll cover it right here on American Advocates. So subscribe for more content like this.